Before I start my video, guys, I just want to give shout outs to two people who hit 12 months on supporting my channel. They've hit the join button down below, and for 12 months they've stuck around. I want to say thank you very much. Jacob Lapich and Sin City Steve, both of you guys have hit 12 months as members of my channel, and Steve, you've been at tier 2 for the entire 12 months. Thank you so much, guys, for your ongoing support. You've hit the pink badge in my live stream chats. If you comment on my videos, you'll see it next to your name as well. And I'll give people shoutouts in the intro to my character review videos whenever they hit the big milestones. I want to thank you all so much again. Now on to the video, guys. Hello survivors, and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video. And in this video we're going to be taking a first look at the Scotsman, who is the upcoming promo in Road to Survival. I have not got access to the character before his release when it comes to showing you some gameplay, but I wanted to ask you, would you want me to do a separate video tomorrow just showing how his rush, active, you know, that sort of thing work as well, or do you think just me talking about it is going to be enough? Let me know in the comments below, but we'll get on to the character himself. The Scotsman, well, obviously was a character that was involved in A Bear's Journey, and a lot of people have been sort of speculating that those characters that were in A Bear's Journey would come to RTS as actual characters, and it seems like the Scotsman's going to be the first of those characters. And visually, he looks exactly like he did on the roadmap in his avatar on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, it does look a little bit stranger. It's sort of like, he just looks small, you know. The Scotsman seems like really like a big guy. I mean, he is going to be big compared to the other characters, but I don't know. It's just because it's just a little tiny character. I don't know. It's always funny. But his sword is huge. That's a claymore. You know, that's a beast mode sword. He does visually look great. He's got the kilt on and everything, but he's got like, he kind of looks like semi-Roman. Like he's got a lot of Roman, you know, weapons. So the armor looks kind of Roman style. It looks pretty cool. I think he looks visually great. It's very different to what we normally get in Road to Survival. With his maxed out vet rings, he has got 5,204 attack, 4,215 defense, but a very low 2,962 HP. So you would see him as being a bit more of an offensive character, but he is seen as a support character. So we'll have to see how his kit sort of identifies that within the stats. Now first up we'll look at his rush, and it is called The Brave. It is a 66 AP cost rush, so actually pretty quick. Strong characters don't normally have super quick rushes, but that's actually pretty good. Deal 1000% damage to a line of enemies, so that's princess level rush damage, which is obviously very powerful. Revive one other teammate with 50% of their max HP. Up to 2 enemies get impair for 2 turns. So all round, this rush is actually pretty nice. The line damage is intense, 1000%. Like I said, it's exactly the same as Princess, and you know what sort of damage she can do. Now hers does get buffed by her specialist skill and her weapon, but 1000% regardless is going to be a lot. Reviving one teammate is nice. 50% HP is obviously decent. If he's on an attack team, that's going to be like 2,000 to 2,500 HP. But if he is an all-round support character and he can be used on a defense team, that could be up to like 5,000 HP on some characters on a defense team. The control here, which is impair, is kind of like boosted control because not many people do use impair resist, but we are seeing impair come into the game a little bit more recently, and there are obviously other characters that have been using impair that are coming around a little bit, so potentially impair resist might become a thing again, but we'll see. And like I said before, I can't show you the gameplay of the rush this time around. Hopefully we get back to our normal schedules next week. But if I do make a video showing the gameplay, you should see a pop-up coming up in the top right-hand corner at any moment. We'll move across to the active skill, and it is recover all penalties and AP gain. Now, it has an initial cooldown of turn 1, so this means on attack, on defense, the first time that the Scotsman can take a turn, he's going to do this active. It has a cooldown of 2 as well, so the reset is actually pretty quick. Number of uses 5, which is kind of standard. Up to 3 other teammates recover from all penalties, so he doesn't recover. He might recover if he is one of the last 3 teammates alive, however. Now that I would have to test out, and like I said before, we haven't got access to the character. This character gains 100% AP, however, so you don't necessarily need him to have AP gain on his weapon if you don't want him to, but because this is turn 1, maybe you do want him to. I'm not really sure. The cooldown of this is so quick that you maybe don't want any AP gain. You want to make him quite stat heavy and just rely on his active to get his rush. That is actually kind of interesting. That means you could pump up his HP, his defense, and put him on a defense team if you so wish. The recoverable penalties is nice, but this can be countered by certain characters, especially the more recently released Abraham, who had trauma on his weapon, easily being able to traumatize opponents. And there are characters in the game who have trauma too. For instance, Ivanova, who was openly accessible in leagues, has trauma on her rush. Then we also have Angel, who is a gold brick character. Again, another character with trauma. So this could potentially become an issue, because then trauma damage would everything that's cleansing. This is a full cleanse, so, which is great against things like infection and such, but that's going to be very problematic if you are coming up against those characters with trauma. But overall, I do like the active. If he was to be used on a defense team, I can see him sitting next to someone like Javi, and Javi teams did have like a big issue, kind of susceptible heavily to infection because they don't really have any healers within strong and tough. This does semi-counter it because he can just cleanse all of the heal reduction, he can cleanse all of the infection, so that's actually pretty decent. No heals though, not yet, not in a Javi team, but maybe soon. Now he does also have a specialist skill, which is Retribution 2, and that means that when this character is defeated, as in they're taken out, all the character's surviving teammates will immediately receive 50% of their max HP. So this actually can be utilized quite well back in the day or in certain game modes, for instance, War Hordes and stuff. I would put characters on the front line that had Retribution 2 to get AP quickly. And honestly, if you had characters like when a new era comes in, you could put old Retribution characters in to gain AP for your like pumped up characters. It was kind of nice, but this is going to be a bit different. People will have to focus the Scotsman. He hasn't got any parts of his kit so far that basically makes it so you have to focus him. You can just control him and take him out last if you wish, and that's always the problem with Retribution. Now obviously, again, there's another part of the game which is Exhaust, which does massively counter things like Retribution in terms of any AP gain, and because he's got that massive AP gain on his active as well, that he could be susceptible to that sort of damage, and this would make it so his entire team is as well. So there are of course downsides to this as much as there are upsides, and there is a very accessible character in Angel to counter AP gain teams. I don't think that Retribution 2 is like top tier, but it isn't terrible, but it has obviously become much worse since the release of Exhaust. But overall, I think the kit there isn't too bad. And when we check out his weapon, it is a 4-star weapon. It is that Claymore. It is pretty nice. The Scotsman's Sturdy Claymore. It has got 30% HP base, which is a little disappointing because generally speaking, you want the percentage boost to be of a stat that is actually already reasonably good, and it is his worst stat. So it's going to have the least impact. He's not even going to get an 1,000 increase because of that, unfortunately. If he had it on defense or on attack, obviously it would be better. I think the best way to do these weapons, if Scopely are listening to this video, is generally to give it 230% stats, because that middle stat everybody changes for AP on attack, or they change for, like in this case, they could change for 30% defense. If you gave it 230% stats, at least people could A, choose which stat they prefer, or B, you're less likely to mess it up. And I mean it because, like, if you look at certain characters like Raulito, when they were released, they had 30% attack on the weapon, which is absolutely useless for Raulito. Whereas if it had 30% attack and 30% defense, people would go, okay, well, I don't know why they put attack on it, but at least I can change that for AP. In this case, it's exactly the same sort of scenario. 30% HP isn't terrible, but I mean, like I said, you want one that'll boost it more. A medium bonus to AP when attacking is the upgrade slot. Like I said before, better if that's a 30% stat, so you get to choose. And then in the third slot, it is going to be a tier 3 special. I'm going to bring this up every single time until it changes, but this is only considered a tier 3 special. When being attacked, if this character is taken out, all teammates regain 100% of their max HP and recover from bleed, burn, and maim, which is actually not too bad. But if you are going to use them on a defense team, this is like an obvious open window, easy AP gain, not ideal at all, and there's no 4 slot for strong characters that can make a character a non-window. Now, a lot of strong defense teams do use stun on attack anyway, so there's generally a lot of windows around. But if you do want to make a windowless team, you need to swap this weapon out for sure. On an attack team, again, he's not realistically going to be focused, but he could potentially, if you raise his attack really high, be the character that gets infected first. And I think that would work when he gets taken out by infection as well. Again, didn't have access to this character before he was released, so I can't really fully test that out, but that's a big assumption. Generally speaking, it does seem like the trader does focus on attack teams anyway, the character that has the highest attack stat. But that third slot does kind of seem more like a defense team third slot than an attack team one. So the Scotsman's kit is a little bit all over the place. He has some very interesting things. Obviously, that active is the thing that's going to bring a lot to the table. First turn active, you're going to be able to get your rush guaranteed for the second turn natural or command turn 1. Now, that's where things could get dangerous for attack teams, because even if he is geared defensively, he will wipe a line out, because obviously attack teams do not have any real defensive stats, generally speaking. If someone is surprised taken out first turn, he will pick them back up. You're going to have impairs coming in first turn as well. So a lot going on there. And if there is any first turn control, potentially he could wipe that out as well with that active. So let's say you had him on a team with the likes of Lee, and Lee got dazed first turn, he'd wipe that out so that Lee could do his active second turn guaranteed, potentially just based on the order of things and how they happen, could still do it first turn, and then obviously Lee's active is very powerful. But I'm not really sure where this character fits in. He kind of gives me the Abraham vibes, where it's not giving a clear indication whether he is an attacking character or a defensive character. He's kind of where he can be used anywhere, and more just like a jack of all trades rather than like a master of anything in particular. I think if you did use him on an attack team, being able to active command rush him turn 1, if the impair goes to the 2 extra people who haven't been taken out by that rush, again, would have to test it out. That could actually be pretty good for a turn 1 rush as well, because then you'd potentially have 2 people taken out, 2 people left who are impaired, and 1 person who can, you know, gain AP. So that wouldn't actually be too terrible. So all around, I like the Scotsman. I think he's decent. I like the fact that they brought in a character from that roadmap story. I know a lot of people got attached to a bunch of those characters like Akira, and I think it was Old Jake, and people are just talking about these characters a lot. I think they've done this well. Hopefully those other characters are ones we get to see implemented into the game going forward, be it as promos or maybe even future event characters. Like, the story can continue from A Bear's Journey for some of those other characters just to see where it goes. It'll be interesting, but do give me your thoughts on the Scotsman's addition to the game. What do you think of his kit? His visuals? Are you happy they've added a character from The Bear's Journey? Do let me know in the comments. That is the end of my video. I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.